Hi, everyone. Welcome to Tobacco Talk Tuesdays. This is Amber Yeager, Tobacco Treatment Specialist who services the Detroit area at our unified office. Today, I am going to be talking about pharmacotherapy for reducing tobacco use and quitting tobacco use. Okay, so before I get started, I just want to go over a couple housekeeping things. So the topic that I'm going over today is kind of dense and there is a lot of material to cover here. So it is going to be a little bit longer. With that being said, I do encourage you to drop any questions or comments that you have down below in the comment section, and I'll be periodically stopping to take a look and see if I could answer anything that's relevant to what we're talking about in the moment. And anything that I don't get to right away, I'll be going over and addressing at the end of the stream. So your question will be answered even if I don't answer it in real time, but I am going to make an effort to do so. All right, thank you. So let's get started. So as we talk about reducing tobacco use and quitting tobacco use, it is really hard. And anyone who has used tobacco products in the past or made a quit attempt in the past knows how hard that is. And that's why there is a lot of different options. There are a lot of different options to help people along with reducing and quitting tobacco use. I'm going to be covering pharmacotherapy, which is one of the great options available to everyone who uses tobacco products. So pharmacotherapy is just a big word for medication therapy to assist with medical conditions such as mental health conditions and addiction, and specifically talking about nicotine addiction and dependency. There are 7 FDA-approved medications on the market right now that are available for tobacco cessation. When I talk to a lot of clients about using these different medications that are available for tobacco cessation, a lot of people are really hesitant or turned off to the use of using that initially for a quit attempt. That could be because medication does get a bad rep for using medications for a variety of things. Also, a lot of people, I think, really underestimate how uncomfortable withdrawal symptoms can really be when reducing or quitting tobacco use. Also, tobacco withdrawals can last for a lot longer than people really expect or think that they will last. So it's really, really hard to rely just on willpower and strength and all of that alone. So I really just wanted to touch on the fact that it's okay to use medication and these different forms of support to help with your tobacco use, because pretty much no one can really go it alone when they're addressing their tobacco dependency and addiction. Less than 1% of the population can successfully make a quit attempt going cold turkey. So I just want to highlight that. And as I am bringing that up, I also want to address the fact too that there's a lot of different sides to nicotine addiction and dependency. There's the societal side, the cognitive behavioral side, and also the chemical side. And I'm going to be talking about that chemical side today. Okay. And with that being said, it's proven that if you use multiple forms of support, you're more effective in your quit attempt. So using just pharmacotherapy alone might not be the best option. I always encourage everyone I work with and everyone I talk to who uses tobacco to use as much support as possible that's available to them. So there's the Michigan Quit Line, there's myself, there's Caitlin, who is a TTS at our Ypsilanti and Jackson locations. There's also some great resources online as far as quit smoking groups. BecomeAnX.org is one of those websites I refer people to a lot, as well as some government-funded programs. So using all of those forms of support is really what's going to help you be as successful as possible in your quit attempts. In fact, it's actually proven that people who use pharmacotherapy and some sort of tobacco cessation counseling or support are 2 times more effective in their quit attempts than people who use only pharmacotherapy alone or only tobacco cessation counseling or support. All right, so there's 2 different tiers as far as pharmacotherapy for using it with tobacco cessation and reduction. The first one I want to talk about is nicotine replacement therapy, also known as NRT, which I'll be referring to as more commonly. Before I dive into that, I just want to let you know that I did write a blog post that details a lot of the dosing, cautions, and contradictions with all of these medications earlier this week. So I encourage you to look at our blog, which I put in the comment section, so you can click that link rather than typing this in. But that goes over a lot. So I just really want to go over the what and the how of pharmacotherapy for addressing tobacco use, just to save a little bit of time and make this a little bit more of an enjoyable live stream. So with nicotine replacement therapy, it is wonderful in helping people titrate down their nicotine use. So a lot of times people think that it's just transferring one nicotine addiction to another, just using it in a different way, but that's not really the case. NRTs really assist with helping take away those trigger-related smoking cues, emotionally related smoking cues, as well as just helping you safely and effectively create that SMART goal plan to reduce the amount of nicotine over time that you're consuming, to make those withdrawals a lot less painful and a lot less uncomfortable. So the patch is the first NRT I'll be describing. This is the only slow-acting NRT on the market. And what that means is that it takes some time for it to get into your bloodstream and to really start working. So the patch works. It's a transdermal patch where it has the nicotine in it. They have the square ones, and then they also have round circle ones. A lot of people put them on their arms or their back, but you can really put it anywhere on your body that the adhesive will stick to. And then what will happen is within an hour, sometimes more, that nicotine will kick into your bloodstream. And I really like using a graph when I tell people about this, just to help put it into perspective of how the patch works versus smoking cigarettes. So if you can see this, try to get it as close as possible. So this is just a little graph I drew with nicotine over time. If you see these red lines or just the sharp peaks and drops, that's an example of what happens when you're smoking a cigarette. So as soon as you smoke a cigarette, within about 7 seconds, that nicotine peaks and it goes right up to your brain, and then it drops down really quickly, and then this is just over time, you're smoking that cigarette. What happens with nicotine when you put that patch on is that over that hour, it builds up into your bloodstream, and then it just stays at that even keel. So there are no highs and lows, which is a big way that nicotine is so addictive, because it just peaks and then it goes down and it peaks. So you just keep on smoking basically to get rid of those withdrawals. And the patch eliminates that, and it makes it a little bit easier to start, working on reducing the nicotine that you have in your body. Best results are if you use it first thing in the morning, you put it on, and then go throughout the day, as well as, it looks like, I'm sorry, the sound, okay. Ashley said the sound is good. Okay, let me know if anyone cannot hear me. Thank you for letting me know that, Mike. Okay, sorry. And the patch, it works better if you just put it on each morning. It's an easy way to remember it. You replace it each day. You can take it off at night if you feel that you aren't sleeping as well, because nicotine is a stimulant, and usually you're not smoking while you're sleeping, or at least I hope not. And so having a stimulant at night is not great, but it works just as fine if you just replace it each morning. Okay, so the patch you can get over the counter, no prescription needed. And that's the same for the nicotine gum and the nicotine lozenge. They're both over the counter, and the nicotine and gum and lozenge are both quick-acting nicotine replacement therapies, meaning that they work a little bit quicker than the patch does. So the gum and lozenge kick in usually about 15, 30 minutes or so, and then it helps reduce triggers. If you're in the morning waiting for the patch to kick in, that can be something just to kind of help you get through that morning. also throughout the day, if you are feeling a little bit more stressed, that is something that you could utilize that way. There's a couple of differences between the gum and the lozenge. So with the gum, you do a two-part chew method. And with that, you're chewing the gum for a few seconds until it gets that peppery taste. Usually it's about 30 seconds or so. And then you park it between your lip and your gum. And then you keep it there for a few minutes. And then you can chew it a little bit more. And when it gets that peppery taste again, then you park it on the other side. So you're kind of alternating the sides of your mouth that you're parking the gum, and that allows for the mucous membranes, so the sides of your cheeks, to absorb that nicotine. It is very important with the gum that you do not swallow the gum and you do not continue chewing the gum, or else you can get a little nauseous and you can get a stomach ache that way, because the nicotine is not supposed to go directly into your stomach. And the lozenge, sometimes people find the lozenge a little bit easier because all you have to do really is let the lozenge melt in your mouth. And as you're letting it melt in your mouth, again, the nicotine really gets absorbed through the mucous membranes on the sides of the cheeks. So just kind of like swish it back and forth periodically. And the nicotine gum and lozenge do come in a few different flavors. A lot of clients have asked me that in the past. I've seen that they come in mint, berry, fruit, as well as cinnamon flavors. So there's a lot of different options for you there. Okay, the last two NRTs are both required through a prescription from your doctor. And they also, I suggest people only look into using them if you're smoking about like 1 pack a day or more, or using a lot of other tobacco products, because they are a lot higher in their dosage. So the first one is the nicotine inhaler, and this is also quick acting NRT. It's a little bit quicker than the gum and the lozenge. It works in about like 10 minutes or so. And the cool thing about the inhaler is the size and like the shape kind of mimics a cigarette. So it's a little bit bigger. It's kind of a little bit smaller than like a Sharpie. And you do use it like a similar way that you would smoke a cigarette. Just kind of bring it up to your mouth. You take a few puffs. It's really encouraged to do it like maybe for 5 minutes or so, or until you're feeling the desired effect. And then you can kind of keep it in your pocket. And it's something that's kind of nice because it's discreet and it's quick. So it works with people who are really busy, on the go a lot, feeling a lot of stress throughout their lives. That could be something that could work for you. The last one is the nasal spray. So the nasal spray is the quickest absorbing NRT, and that's because it's absorbed right through your nasal passageways. So it works similar to a sinus nasal spray. You do 1 dose in one nostril and another dose in another nostril, and then you kind of tilt your head back for a little bit and you wait for that to like fully be absorbed so it's not dripping. That also works really well for people who might be in those kind of busy, high stress moments, might be able to go to the bathroom and use that. Okay, so with the nicotine inhaler and the nicotine nasal spray, I just want to mention that it's really, really important that you're disposing of these products really safely and responsibly, because the cartridges and the nasal spray containers can appear empty when you're done with it, except a lot of the nicotine does kind of hang in those areas. So just be careful that you're being responsible with that and disposing it in a sealable, like closable trash can so that no pets can get into it and no children can get into it, because it can harm a small child or a pet. And you just really want to be careful with that. So I'll take a second just to see. It looks like we had a couple comments. Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate you. Okay, it doesn't look like anyone has any questions at this moment, so I'm going to keep going. The second component to pharmacotherapy for reducing and quitting tobacco use are medications in the form of a pill. So there are 2 of these that are approved by the FDA, and they both do require a prescription because it is more of a medication regimen. And it is really, really important. Again, I'm not going to be talking more like about all of the contradictions and cautions with these medications, but I will say it is very important that you're being very open, honest and transparent with your doctor when you're getting the prescription for these, and really talking about just any lifestyle things that might be contradictions and things that have happened in the past year, especially with you as you're thinking about getting prescription for these, because there are some things that you need to be careful with. Chantix is the first medication for nicotine dependency. And with this medication, just like the second one, bupropion, you will take it 1 to 2 weeks before you start reducing, or I guess as you start reducing, or before your quit attempts. And that is just because it takes about 10 days or so for medications to really achieve their therapeutic medicinal effects that is needed to be effective for you. So the way that Chantix works is that once it starts building up in your system, it actually attaches in a nicotine receptor in your brain. And this way it blocks the nicotine that could be coming to you from other ways. So if you're still using tobacco products while you're using Chantix, the awesome thing is you won't feel that reward. You're not going to get that reinforcement that you would normally get from having a cigarette or using chew or any other tobacco product. So it really helps you with conquering that dependency as far as tobacco use. It also, since it's attached to your nicotine receptor, it does mimic that nicotine as far as producing subdopamine in your brain. But the thing with that is the dopamine that is produced from the Chantix is so low that it's not going to produce an effect as far as like addiction. It just helps you with taking away that withdrawal and makes those withdrawal symptoms a little bit less pronounced than they normally would be if you were going from 100 to 0 as far as your nicotine and dopamine response in your brain. So it kind of eases that withdrawal. And then bupropion is the next medication. It goes under a lot of different names. So bupropion is the name of it, but it goes under the brand name Zyban as well as Wellbutrin as far as smoking cessation. And the cool thing about bupropion is it's actually an antidepressant as well. So a lot of people can use it for tobacco cessation as well as for depression. So as you talk to your doctor about what your specific needs might be, bupropion might be something that works really great for two things that you might be struggling with. So since it does have antidepressant properties, it works really well with those mood-related withdrawals. It also targets specific withdrawals to help lessen overeating in response to not using nicotine, as well as concentration problems and extreme irritability or anger. So that is the wonderful thing about that. Researchers know also that the bupropion helps block certain chemicals in your brain that interact with nicotine, and this can make using tobacco a little bit less reinforcing, kind of similar to Chantix. Okay. Are there any questions? One thing too, I do want to mention about Chantix. It's just like if you have experienced depression or something along the lines of that in the past, Chantix might not be great, but then bupropion could be something to ask for. Just kind of want to put that out there, but it is safe in other regards. Okay, I'll wait and see if there are any questions about any of the medications that I talked about. Okay, so in closing, I really want to encourage everyone to explore all of their options. Again, you can visit our blog to get some more details on more specific dosing and cautions and contradictions to see if something could or could not be for you. Also, even though I mentioned that you can get the patch, the gum, and the lozenge over the counter without needing a prescription or talking to a doctor, I still encourage people to go talk to their doctor about it and get a prescription, because you can get the cost covered. I always encourage people, if you don't have to pay for it, why do it? Go get that prescription, and most times your insurance will cover most of the cost, if not all of the cost of the patch or the gum or lozenge. So that kind of helps. especially I know a lot of people are trying to save money from buying cigarettes, so that could be another option. And I do want to touch on e-cigarettes. So Caitlin, our TTS from the Ypsilanti location, she is going to be creating a blog and a live stream that goes more in depth about e-cigarette use and all the ins and outs with that. But I do want to address that e-cigarettes are not approved for smoking cessation, and they are not an effective way to reduce your smoking or quit smoking. Oftentimes, people who are using e-cigarettes for smoking cessation will find that they are either co-using then e-cigarettes and combustible cigarettes, or they find that they're increasing their nicotine and they're smoking more than they were than when they were using these e-cigarettes. So I know that Big Tobacco is very sneaky in their advertising, and they say things like, "Oh, make the switch." It's not necessarily safer or an effective way to address that use. So I just want to put that out there. And that is it for me for today. Thank you for everyone who watched. I'm going to keep my eye out for a second to see if there are any questions. All right, it looks like there are no questions. Thank you again for everyone who watched. Stay tuned for Caitlin's Tobacco Talk Tuesday in 2 Tuesdays.